Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today. And though you've come through many obstacles.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to Close Enough, episodes 6 through 8. Yeah, normally I only do 2 episodes to finish off a season or a series or whatever, but we're doing the final 3 today. And it's partially, well actually let's be honest, it's entirely because it's nothing against Close Enough. I'm actually really enjoying Close Enough. It's entirely because I want to get to the next series after that. Because the next series, I'll reveal it in the afterthoughts, but it's something that I really want to get to, and considering these slots are now for specifically first impressions reactions, getting back to those. It's something that I really want to get to. I don't want to keep putting off. That I want to just, I don't want to wait an extra week. So we're getting to it a week quicker. And mind you, I'm still recording this like really long beforehand. Like, this is the reaction for when? This is the reaction for Friday the 20th. And I'm recording this on the 9th. So that should tell you like how far ahead I currently am and everything with recordings. I mean, that's only a week right now, like just over a week, but still. But I've been like getting stuff recorded like over a week ahead and everything. For the past few weeks now. So that's fun. But either way, like getting into this, I'm just excited to see how these last 3 go, because like I said, I've been very much enjoying this series. It's witty, it's funny, it's ridiculous as hell, and it goes into places I would never expect. I think I already mentioned, but I kind of enjoy this more than regular show. And I don't know if it's just because of the human characters rather than, having more animal and object-based characters. I don't know if it's just the, I guess, more relatable ideas in it, comparatively. Or even if it's partially, at least, due to the adult humor. That's actually done well. Unlike in stuff like Family Guy or Rick and Morty, in my opinion. It actually feels like genuine adult humor that is not just, being crass for the sake of being crass. It feels well thought out. And I like the characters. They're all pretty fun and entertaining and interesting. They have a lot of depth to them, which is surprising considering how fucking dumb they can be at times. And the scenarios are really enjoyable. Not every segment is a hit out of the park or anything. There are some that are just kind of meh for me, but the characters really sell them. So even the scenarios that are more meh for me are still enjoyable enough to watch. So yeah, obviously I don't know where any of this is going to go today. I'm just hoping that we end off the season with some really good stuff, some really fun, entertaining stuff. As I've said before, I don't expect any level of, content, like real continuity here. I don't expect any level of like actual big story to come into play. The only thing I could maybe see happening is if like the finale had a more serious setup. Like maybe something happens with Candace that really gets her parents spooked. I could see something like that happening. Like maybe Candace gets like really sick and Emily and Josh are just beside themselves with worry and fear and just trying to figure it all out. That I could completely see. And that they could still take that in some wacky directions. But that I could see being a good finale type of setup because it seems a little more serious, it seems a little more intense, but at the same time, for a series like this that is episodic, it still fits into that kind of nature. That I feel would be kind of the best kind of thing to do something like that. Not necessarily specifically that, but something like that at least. If it just kind of ends on just a random run of the mill episode, then I'll be a little disappointed. But as long as it's still good, I think that's my priority with this series. As long as I still enjoy it. This isn't one of those shows where the episodic nature is actually like hurting it for me. This is one where I actually think the episodic nature works, surprisingly. But let's see how it goes. We got 3 episodes to get through, and hopefully we enjoy them. All 6 segments of them, since there's 2 per episode. I assume the last one's still going to have 2 per episode. Either way, when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episodes. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. I'm sorry, I was just thinking back to Weird Al getting mauled by the bear. So this was an interesting set of episodes, and it ended off with a double-length episode, which is kind of what I expected, though the plot was obviously not what I expected at all. I was expecting something that'd be more, I don't know, I guess a little more serious, that would be more focused on Josh and Emily and Candace. Instead, it focused more on the relationships between the friends, between Josh and Alex and Emily and Bridget. It definitely had a grander feel, and not just because of the entire ending parodying the Breakfast Club, with the music and everything, while showing us the entire what happened to the characters kind of situation, like a lot of movies have done in the past. It felt grander in scale, like it felt like a big story rather than just these little goofy scenarios, you know. Even though the dog boy stuff was obviously ridiculously goofy and everything, still, it just had it felt like it had a bigger scope to it. And even though Emily and Bridget's side of the story was definitely a lot more held back, like this one definitely focused on the Josh and Alex side. But even so, they still had some moments to shine in this, and were still fun and entertaining. But we got some wacky other stuff in these episodes. And overall, I genuinely enjoyed this season. Obviously, we're going to continue on to season 2 eventually. We're just going to, get to some other things first and all. But I very much enjoyed this. So I think I got most of my thoughts out on the episodes during the reactions. So I'm gonna take this time instead to talk about my thoughts on the series overall. Because I think there's some things I just really want to discuss in regards to that, especially based on my thoughts at like where they started and how they've kind of come to where they are now. I think I'd rather spend my time discussing that than just going on an episode recap with each of these. So when I got into this series, obviously I knew it was by J.G. Quintel. I knew that it was the same creator as regular show, and I went into it kind of expecting a more adult regular show in terms of comedy, in terms of just the overall style, I guess. And right off the bat, it did kind of impress me. It was very funny, it was entertaining, the characters were super likable, and so I definitely knew I wanted to see more. So as I went along, I continued to just enjoy the kind of stories and enjoy the characters. If I had to say a favorite character right now, it would probably be Emily, with Bridget as a very close second. And yes, part of that is because I do tend to connect to and enjoy female characters more often than the male characters. That's not always the case, but a lot of times. I just genuinely do. And I would definitely say that with this, that is definitely the case. Not that I don't like Josh and Alex, not that I don't find them entertaining, I very much do. But Emily and Bridget, I don't know. Maybe it's just because they're, I guess, smarter and more down to earth. I just feel like I can connect to them a little more. Like, Josh, like, he has the video game thing, and yes, I love video games, but... And there was even a point in time when I was younger when I wanted to actually be a video game designer. But at the same time, it's like... He's so ridiculously dumb at times that it's just... It's hard to really get as attached to him as to other characters. And Alex is definitely smarter than Josh, for sure. But he's also kind of a dumbass as well. And I've never been huge into dumbass characters. It's not really... they don't really appeal to me as much as, like, you know, smarter characters do. Sometimes a good dumbass character can be really enjoyable, but a lot of the times I just find them a little bit more annoying. Josh and Alex are done well, though. They're again, because they're made so likable and made to be well written and enjoyable, I can still enjoy them and certain shenanigans they get up to. But Emily and Bridget, just I like a lot more personally. I like that this show as well, as I continue into it, it made it more and more apparent. I like that this show doesn't try to paint sex as like this like taboo thing in a way. Like I think I've talked about this in a previous episode video, but I like it when shows can just paint sex as being just a normal thing that people do. Not as something like this forbidden, extreme topic or anything. So many shows in the past have done that. They paint sex as if it's like this, like this rare thing that people don't do it all the time, and that they barely ever talk about it, and they paint it as if it's like forbidden to discuss, or like it's too overly personal, and it's like that's just not how things really are. That is a fictionalized view on that kind of stuff that just honestly has in a lot of ways harmed our society by basically forcing people to see it that way. Sex does not need to be this like super personal thing to talk about. I mean, I'm not saying you should go around like talking about your sex life constantly to everyone, but you don't need to like act as if it's like this forbidden topic. I think that sex is, for a lot of people, just a normal thing. Just something that people do. Normalizing it and treating it as just normal is in my eyes, how it should be handled. Because it just is in real life. So I like that they portray it that way in this series. You'll just see, you'll have a character like Bridget who is super sexually active and talks about it plenty, isn't afraid of it. Josh and Emily, they have sex, and they're not afraid to have sex, and they're not afraid to discuss the fact that they have sex. And I think that's just a more realistic portrayal of things. I also like that the main characters are, as I've said before, clearly millennials. They're meant to be relatable to today's adult viewership. So they're made to be millennial adults. They're just over 30. They're very much into the kinds of things that millennials are into. They act like millennials. And so it allows you to connect with them. It allows you to relate to them if you're amongst that age group, like I myself am. And yeah, even the dumbass side to them. Like, yeah, of course, a lot of us millennials can be dumbasses at times. So it's definitely, that is still there as well. And I enjoy how the show clearly doesn't take itself very seriously as well. Because, like, you find this out really quickly. It's like the episodes kind of have this formula to them, where for the most part, with maybe an exception or two here or there, the episodes are always like, okay, we have this regular setup, things are just normal, and then shit just goes completely off the fan, just without warning. Things just completely go crazy, and there's like no warning to it. It just happens. It gets into all kinds of weird, ridiculous shit that makes no sense, that is obviously ridiculously fantasy based and everything, but in a fun way. And it's handled in a way to where it's like, oh yeah, you obviously know this is unrealistic, but it's not really supposed to be. It's ridiculous. It's supposed to be ridiculous, and you're supposed to see it as absolutely stupid. But sometimes stupid can be fun, and that's what they're going for, clearly. So I enjoy it in that regards, because they don't hold back from that. They don't pretend to be anything more than that. I think that's one of my biggest issues with shows like Rick and Morty. Because to me, at least, it always felt like Rick and Morty was trying to present itself as being, like, bigger and smarter and better than it actually is. It tried to present itself as like being this like well thought out adult animation that was clever and smart and creative, and it's like it's not. It always felt what's the word? Not elitist, but elitist could describe it as well. It just felt like it was trying too hard to make itself look better. Very snobby in a way. There's a specific term I can't think of. Elitist is probably the closest to that, but, and it's just I hate it when shows are pompous like that. When they act like they're hot shit and they just don't deliver on that. And again, it's all subjective. It's all my opinion, mind you. But I could never get into Rick and Morty for those kinds of reasons. It felt like it was just trying too hard to be, or to make people believe it was better. And it just never lived up to that idea to me, and I never enjoyed it. I always found it stupid and just, like, unreasonably, needlessly crass. just because people think that's what adult animation has to be. And then you have an adult animation like this that just refuses to be that. Like, is there swearing in it? Yeah, of course. But is it needlessly crass? No. Like, there's poop jokes, there's ridiculous sex jokes and stuff in there, but it's not needlessly crass. It grounds itself and allows itself to feel more real in terms of how the humor is delivered. It's like people talk like this, even at the most ridiculous parts of it. Like, people can be that dumb. People can be that stupid and ridiculous. And it never comes across as try hard. It's just a goofy show trying to be goofy while interjecting in some just realistic silliness. Characters that are likable and relatable, stories and experiences that you can connect to, and some random shit that's just funny because it's so fucking random, like Weird Al getting mauled by a bear. It's great in that regard, and I love it. I also really do like the visual style. It's another case where I think it works much better here than with regular show. Maybe it's just because of the upgrade in animation, but I just feel like with regular show it didn't move as fluidly and look just generally as good. I just feel it looks so much better just from a general like art and animation level in this series. The music is great. They've got some like good like licensed music in this series. They've had some really good references, some good voicing. Just everything really works. It's not perfect. There are some jokes in some episodes that are weaker than others. That's going to happen. Nothing can be perfect. And definitely not everything in this series is. But it does what it needs to do. Just enough to make it entertaining to watch. It's a fun ride. So I definitely have grown to appreciate this much more as I've continued along with this season. And I'm excited to see season 2 when we eventually get into that. But now, I mentioned in the pre-thoughts that the main reason I was doing the last 3 episodes together instead of just the last 2 was because of what's going to be replacing this series in the slot for the first impressions reactions slots. I mentioned it was something that I just really wanted to get back to, and the reason for that is because I keep seeing it everywhere. Like, I thought the hype for the series would die down after a couple episodes, but it is still so high. The hype is so high that it's really astounding me. Like, every so often you'll see a series where the fans just hype it up so much to where it's everywhere constantly. But it's always a shock to me when that actually does happen. Because it's always just like, it's so popular. And now, not always do I agree with that popularity. And I've only seen 1 episode of this so far since we did, a first impressions on it. So I can't say if it truly deserves this much popularity. But I can say that I am definitely excited to get back into it after the first episode, because it definitely impressed me a lot. And considering how people are still just packing on adoration for the series, even I think it's 5 episodes in, it makes me want to see it even more than ever, to continue to watch it more and more. And so we will be pushing forward on the first impressions reactions and getting to Spy Family. Spy Family will be returning starting next week. And for those of you who might be like wondering, like, oh, but you still have all these other things to get to from first impressions, and it's like, yes, I do. But this is one of the reasons why I have decided to make this slot and the one that's currently held by Jujutsu Kaisen as basically first impression slots, first impression reaction slots, because I want to be able to get to these a little quicker than I would otherwise, so I can basically put them or react to them like in any order that I want. I don't want to have to like necessarily do them in the order that I first recorded the first impressions video on. I want to be able to get to them, like, if one series really impresses me, I want to be able to get to it quicker, you know? And with 2 slots open for this now, we should be able to do that without an issue. So we're definitely going to be getting to Spy Family next. But don't worry, everything on the list will be gotten to still. So some of the older stuff we've done first impressions that we still haven't continued yet, we will be continuing. But there's also certain things that is on the list that I haven't been in the mindset for a while to get to. But hopefully I'll be able to get to soon enough. I'm starting to get a little more ready for that, for sure. It's just been because of current climates in the world, it's been hard. And obviously that tells you what kind of stuff I'm talking about, stuff like Watchmen and all, where it's like, oh yeah, just tackling a series that deals with with a lot of these heavy topics can sometimes be just a lot when heavy shit like that is going on in real life. So sometimes you want a show that's just going to be more entertaining and fun, or something that just, even if it does handle those topics, it handles it in a way to where it doesn't feel overwhelmingly real. You know what I mean? So we'll still get to all that stuff. And again, I'm starting to feel a little better about starting to get back to some of those things. But yeah, that's just the gist of it. Wanted to make sure you all understood that we're not just skipping it just because I don't want to get to those or anything. I do. I want to get to stuff like that. I want to get to Agent Carter. I want to get to all of them. But there's certain ones that are going to impress me more, and I'm just going to want to get to quicker. It's just how this can tend to work. First impressions, it's like, I'm not, just because I like them doesn't mean I like them to the same level, you know? Just saying. But again, we will be getting back to all that other stuff too. I just want to I really want to get to Spy Family right now, because again, I see it everywhere. It is everywhere. I can't escape it, and so I kind of want to just get to it, so I don't be spoiled, because I would be spoiled if I didn't already know the mother was a character before even going into the series, because she is everywhere. Like, I think she's probably the most popular character, judging on how much I see her on social media. But yeah, it's like, I don't want to get possibly spoiled on any plot stuff, especially. And I just want to watch more of it. I'm genuinely excited to see more of it, and that says something. So either way, tell me in the comments below what you thought of these final episodes of Close Enough, season 1 at least. And thank you all so much for tuning in. If you want any clarification on anything, I might have reacted to or whatnot in the reaction. If you want, or any thoughts on specific parts of these episodes, since I again didn't go into much detail on that in these afterthoughts. If you want any specific information or clarifications on anything, please feel free to ask. I am more than willing to clarify anything, talk about anything. If you think I missed something, or if you think I misunderstood something, feel free to talk about that as well. I'm always willing to listen to any of that. But either way, thank you so much once again. And for now, I'm Connie and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.